Thank you, Roger. I got to tell you, I just love the fact that we're able to be together. If we hadn't had this experience, maybe we wouldn't realize how precious this is and how special it is for us to be together. So many memories of those small beginnings all those years ago. Just powerful memory of those times and all the uncertainty and all the craziness of starting something new. And we're really restarting in this time, and I'm grateful that you guys are part of this. Not many people like 2-year-olds. I think I can be safe in saying that. I mean, you love children. And 2-year-olds can be special, and they're fun. Honestly, I clearly remember when my daughters were 2, of course, separate times. And there's good things about the Terrible Twos, and there's bad things about the Terrible Twos. But the good thing about the Terrible Twos is they begin to be able to obviously talk, interact with you, respond. They begin to express their own free will. That's part of the terrible part, but it's part of the good part too. I remember clearly, and Madison's here, and I feel bad for her. I know that and we're grateful that she's here. But we used to, 18 months, 2 years old, as she's beginning to express her free will, we'd sort of play this game. And you could ask her, Madison, you want me to throw you out the window? Of course, we're teasing and playing. No. You want me to throw you in the air? No. You want me to sit on you? No. You want ice cream? No. Anything you would ask, she would say, no. You could say, I want $1 million? No. Of course, she doesn't understand $1 million, but still doesn't. But anything you asked her, the game was that she would just say no to whatever you said. You want to go outside and climb a tree? No. Anything she might like or dislike, the answer was no. It's because it was sort of a fun interaction, and we loved to play that. And we'd do that, it seemed, for too long. Hours. 2 Peter, I want you to look there, has a lot to do with that. Not about 2-year-olds, but about the whole concept of no. I want you to look, if you will. We've been walking through 2 Peter, and we're going to be looking at chapter 2, verses 1 through 3. And I know some of you haven't been able to be here or even be with us as we've broadcast live. But hopefully you have your Bible in front of you. 2 Peter, chapter 2, verses 1 through 3. Let's read that. Let me read that for you this morning as we share together. Verse 1 of chapter 2. But there were also false prophets among the people, just as there will be false teachers among you. They will secretly introduce destructive heresies, even denying the sovereign Lord, who bought them, bringing swift destruction on themselves. Many will follow their depraved conduct and will bring the way of truth into disrepute. Verse 3. In their greed, these teachers will exploit you with fabricated stories. Their condemnation has long been hanging over them, and their destruction has not been sleeping. Now, you'll remember last week we talked about what was going on with the unusual word that he uses for master or sovereign Lord. It's not the typical word that you would use in the original language. That word is kurios. It's just the idea of Lord, someone that is over someone else. But he uses that specific word that we get the word despot from. A despot is someone who has overwhelming control and sway over someone's life. The idea that you can't do anything except that leader, that ruler, that despot has control over those that are under them. Now, we use it in the negative term, and we talked last week that the use here has nothing to do with negativity. In fact, it is the concept of sovereignty. It's the idea that, hey, all powerful, all ability, and that He can control and He wants to control everything that goes on in our lives because we've responded to the fact that He died for us. See, we would give Him that opportunity because He has given us life, because He walked into the slave market and bought us out of slavery. Why wouldn't you give that kind of master? Why wouldn't you give them full and complete control? And we talked about that. But I noticed something else in this passage as I've been working through it. And maybe if you've been sharing, and I would hope that you sort of saturate in the passage. I know some of you do, that you're just hanging out in the passages we're looking at. And if you've been looking at this passage in 2 Peter chapter 2, verses 1 to 3, there's a repeated word. He repeats it 3 times. In fact, in the book, he repeats it 4 times. He keeps using this word. It's the word destruction. And he uses destruction 3 different ways. He uses the concept to the heresies or the concepts that are being promoted by these false teachers, they're destructive. Their destruction itself is the concept. He describes the fact that what comes out of the heresies will be destructive. And then finally, he says that the destruction, as they live in these heresies, there will be imminent destruction. So if you walk in the concept of what's happening here, there's going to be this imminent, overwhelming, swift-moving, it's about to happen, hey, don't look back because it's there, idea of destruction. What's interesting is that this word destruction, when I think about destruction, I think it's just, you're just sort of like getting zapped in Star Trek. You know how they had the phase, you just become nothing. That's destruction. Or maybe an explosion, like someone was destroyed, in a bomb falling, and there's nothing left. That's the concept that I have. Maybe not you, but that's the idea that I carry when it talks about, hey, there's this destruction. You're going to come, you're going to get squashed. You're going to become nothing. It's going to become zero. But that's not really the essence, the heart of the word, as the original writers used it. The concept of destruction is not this, you're gone. Or you get pulled from limb by limb, and you're spread across, as you're drawn and quartered as you were destroyed in the Middle Ages. But this concept of destruction is not the idea that you're wiped out, that you become nothing. What it really is that destruction is anything that makes life not worthwhile. Not worth living. Anything that makes your existence not worth having. Get the picture. It's not that you become nothing, as maybe I've been thinking, but it's the idea that what you have and the life that you have is not worth living. Your existence becomes worth less. Get the picture? It's the idea that when Peter talks about destruction in both of these ways, in these 3 ways, he is saying, listen, whatever is happening, this is going to create a life that's not worth having, a life not worth living, an existence that's worth less, worth nothing. Because it doesn't matter, this worthlessness is hanging over them. It's that you're not going to be squished. You're going to become an unimportant, unworthy, worthless existence. Think about that. You're still living, but it's not worth living. You're still existing, eating, walking, talking, but it's not worthwhile. Empty. Waste. Worthless. Those are hard words. But he mentions them 3 times. He keeps saying it over and over. What these false teachers are teaching you is going to result and a waste of a life. See, nobody wants their life to be wasted. I don't want my life to be wasted. You don't want your life to be wasted. I mean, nobody wants a worthless life. I think that's why a lot of times people commit suicide or people do some of the things that they do, is because simply they realize that my life means nothing. There's no purpose. It's just worthless. It's destruction. That's what he's talking about. So, as I was looking at this, I realized, and we talked a little bit about this last week, he uses the word denial. And it's really a key word in this passage. The concept of denial is, it's the idea of saying no on the surface. So if you were to deny something, like that little 2-year-old, yeah, do you want some pizza? No. Denial. She denies that she wants that. But that's really not, once again, the meaning. And it's amazing how deep the original language is in some of these places. You see, the word denial here is not the idea of just saying no. But in actuality, it's the attitude behind it. It's not that I'm just going to say, do you want this or do you want that? No, I don't want that. No. This word denial is deeper than that. It's the idea of this attitude of complete negativity towards the person presenting the offer. Think about that for a moment. You see, it's not a two-year-old playing a game. It's now a 16-year-old having a total attitude towards their parents. It's this negative, oh my gosh, why would you ask me that? Ugh. I mean, I see it all the time. It's a 15-year-old sitting in a math class. The teacher says, please respond to this question. Why would you ask me that? You see, this idea, it's this negative attitude, not just to decline something. It's the attitude of, I'm going to spew you out of my mouth. Look, you are so repulsive to me. Not just the question you're asking. It doesn't have to do with the question. It has to do with the person that is asking it. See how much deeper that is? See, it's much bigger than what we would just, a little 2-year-old, you want some pizza? No. 16-year-old, you want some pizza? No! By all means, don't talk to me. Don't acknowledge that I'm alive. Anybody been there? I think we all live that. I think if you're a parent of a 16-year-old or 20-year-old or 30-year-old, you've seen this, right? So it's this whole negative attitude to the person that's presenting the request or the demand. So if I understand what Peter is talking about here with these teachers, he's saying that the teachers, these false teachers, these fake guys, these guys that say that they're following Jesus but really aren't, you see, what he's presenting is that they're not saying, no, I don't like what Jesus is saying. They're saying, I don't care what question you're going to ask, I'm going to say no. Because it's not about what you're asking me to do or be or act like. I'm rejecting you. It's a whole attitude. It's a whole mindset. That whatever, doesn't matter what comes out of Jesus' mouth. No. It's really a spiritual teenagerhood. And maybe, I don't want anybody to get convicted. I don't want anybody, but have you ever done that to Jesus? Have you ever just said, oh, come on, man. You want me to do what? I don't want to live that way. I don't want that lifestyle. I don't want to be involved in that. You want me to talk to people? You want me to live a certain lifestyle? You want me to not do certain things in my relationships? That's what goes behind this word denial. And it's interesting that he talks about 4 different things that happen in the denial. Now look with me in the passage. First he says, there's going to be swift destruction. There's this imminent destruction that's going to happen. That's a result of the denial. when you have the attitude and this mentality of negative thought towards the despot, the ruler, the sovereign master, when you have that kind of, the result is this imminent, sitting over your shoulder, destruction. There's a second thing. Not only are you going to have this imminent thing happening, sitting back here, that life will become worthless, that life will have no meaning, that life will not be what life really should be. He says other people are going to follow that. So when you have you ever noticed a group of teenagers? Maybe you've never spent time in a youth group. Maybe you've never spent time around high school students. But there's this attitude. See, when one gets an attitude, a group, others get the attitude. When one back talks, others back talk. See, you have to control. See, you have to squash. I've learned this over the years working in education. You have to squash the negative attitude. Because if you let it happen with one, guess what happens? The whole crowd is going to be in that beautiful teenager wag, just. Everybody loves that, don't you? You love that. Love to see teenagers do that. But there's going to be, one will mislead many, is what Peter's saying here. See, we don't live in a bubble. See, you and I, the response we have to Jesus, we don't live in a bubble. We affect one another. As I looked at this, I began to realize I have an effect, not just because I'm the pastor or the preacher or the whatever, but all of us are affecting those that are connected to us. If you will, we're all like teenagers affecting those that sit and watch what we do. And that's what Peter's saying here. There's a third thing that happens with the concept of denial. When denial begins to happen, it creates a lifestyle of depraved conduct. He uses the word here, it says, verse 2, many will follow their depraved conduct. Now the word, they use a nice word, a nice little euphemism there. It's a nice word. It means sexual weirdness, depravity, outrageous behavior focused on the sexual. It's a sexual sickness, a lasciviousness. You can use all different terms, but it's just, the result of you having that kind of attitude, what's going to be worked out in your life is eventually there's going to be this sickness that begins to happen. That ultimately, and isn't that interesting? Can we see that happening in our society today? I don't want to bring attention to too many headlines, but I think you understand that there's some stuff going on. Why do those people act that way? Attitude of negativity towards the person of Jesus. It works its way through their lives, and look at their lives. And it doesn't matter how many colors we talk about or how many alphabet people we talk about. The issue is that it results in something that it does not bring life. That doesn't mean that Jesus doesn't love them and that we are not for them, but it simply means there's a natural result, and the natural result is depraved conduct. Sick, weird, strange, inappropriate, lascivious, grossness. That's what that the word really means. There's a fourth thing that happens when denial begins to live out in the lives of someone, and that is the concept of blasphemy. It's not blasphemy towards God that we normally use the concept. It's the idea that the world, as they see Christians live in that kind of attitude and that kind of action, and they begin to live out this depraved mentality, they begin to go, that's wrong. You Christians, that's bad. They begin to speak badly about the people of God. And those folks in those churches and all those things that happen out there that have this kind of depraved conduct, and it's okay to go on with that, eventually the world is going to go, that's not right. You say this, but you live this way. you say you do this, but this is what comes out of your life. And the world begins to blaspheme or speak badly about or speak against the church. It's the fourth result. See, this denial thing is dangerous. Peter is begging the churches, listen, don't be involved in this denial thing. Don't get caught up in that. Because this negative attitude in the response to Jesus, it is always going to result in a life that is wasted, worthless, and unimportant. Purposeless. That's what Peter is saying. It's going to create worthless living. It's going to draw other people into that. It's going to cause terrible things to be spoken about the church. And it's going to create this lifestyle that is just something you don't want. But isn't it interesting that if that is true, and we believe it to be true, I believe I've seen it lived out in our society, what Peter is talking about here. That when you deny and you have this attitude of negativity towards the person of Jesus Christ and His sovereignty in your life, anytime you have that, if that's true, we believe it to be true, then the converse, the opposite of that, must be true. Doesn't that stand to reason? That if a denial creates a life that is worthless, then what does an embracing, an acceptance, a yes instead of a no, an attitude of total, overwhelming yes, what does that create? Well, it must also be the opposite. It must create a lifestyle that people are also drawn to, but a lifestyle that says, that's good. See, even when people are depraved, they can tell the difference. When they don't have Jesus, they can tell the difference. A world that doesn't know Jesus, they can tell the difference between true and untrue, right and wrong. They may not admit it. They may not want to walk in it. They may be part of the negative attitude, but they go, no, hold it. Yeah, you know what? They may try to destroy it themselves, but yeah, that's real. Those Christians, they are who they say they are. Those Christians, you know what? Hey, their kids turn out better than these things happen. Look at their lives. See, that's what it took just a few years to turn the Roman Empire on its head. All the depraved lasciviousness, all the sickness of the Roman Empire was turned on its head in just a few years. You see, if denial creates a negative attitude, what does acceptance of the person of Jesus produce? Well, instead of a worthless lifestyle, it produces a life of worth. It produces a life worth living. It produces an existence worth having. See, what if, as we begin our time as a church here, sort of beginning again in a sense, what would happen if every time we came in contact with when we came into consciousness of the person of Jesus Christ, instead of us debating, well, Jesus wants me to do this, I'm not sure if I want to do that, it would be an overwhelming, resounding yes. No matter what he said, yes. As opposed to the 2-year-old, you want pizza? No. We'll go climb a tree? No. Want to play ball? No. Jesus speaks to us and says, you want to talk to that person? Yes. You want to live this way? Yes. You want to. Anytime the Holy Spirit would niggle us, yes. Anytime God would call us, yes. What would happen? What would happen to our lifestyle if at every moment, at every turn, I'm just waiting? I don't even debate it. I don't even question it. I don't even worry about it. Yes. See, how would my life change? How would people view me differently? If at every moment, at every second, at every chance I had, it would be a resounding yes. Anytime Jesus said anything, yes. Don't argue. I'm not going to argue. It doesn't matter. I know what the answer is going to be yes. Say, well, that's easier said than done. I agree with you. But that's what Peter is calling the churches to be. That's real Christianity. See, that's the Christian message. See, so many times when we're kids, the church is always telling me, God's always a no God. You ever hear this out of people? Well, I don't like the church. All they do is say no, what you can't do, what you can't. What would happen if we understood that this is not about no? God's not saying no. He's giving us the opportunity of a yes. A yes to a life worth meaning. A yes to a life worth purpose. A yes to a life filled with goodness. See, that's the contrast. But you see, so many times, we're spiritual teenagers. Oh, I've got to go do this. I don't know if I want to do that. I just don't know about that. See, I don't know about you, but I find myself doing that. More often than I realize, more often than I want to. I don't know. No. But when I say no and I deny, guess what happens? Destruction. The opportunity for what I want and need my life to be in relationship with God is then become nothing. See, it's a two-handed thing. See, what would happen? What would happen in our lives if at every turn I just said, yes, Jesus. Yes, Holy Spirit. That I would never question whether I'm going to say yes or no. You know the answer. Yes, let's go. I guarantee you it's not going to be comfortable. I guarantee you it's going to create a dangerous world. I guarantee you it's not going to be what I expected it to be. But then again, Lynette and I were discussing this week, when has my life ever been what I expected it to be? When? When have my plans ever been right? Maybe you've worked it out. I've never seen it happen. I don't know anybody. You walk up to anybody. Hey, has your life worked out the way you thought it would? Oh, sure, it's worked out perfectly. No, it hasn't. Liar. You may want to put that on, but that's not real. So why am I such a spiritual teenager? Why is my tendency to say, I don't know. When life is found in the yes. What would happen if Christians just said we're the people of yes? We created this culture and cultivated this lifestyle. Yes! What would come out of that? Not destruction. Not brokenness. Not worthlessness. So take the opposite of that, and that's what the yes is. I don't know where you're at, but I want the rest of my days. I'm sure I won't execute very well, but I want my heart is, I want the rest of my days to be this resounding cultivation of yes. Doesn't matter what you say. Yes. Because I don't want a no. I don't want a denial lifestyle. Let's pray. Father, as we see more and more in your word, we know that your Spirit wants to cause us to say yes to your truth, yes to your person, yes to being worthwhile, yes to a lifestyle that never lives denying you. Not what you said, but who you are. We'd be in this constant, overwhelming wave and flow of saying yes to who you are, whatever that might look like. That's what I want for myself. Jesus, you'll have to execute that through me. Would you forgive me for being so negative and so resistant and so teenager-esque? So caught up in my attitude of negative to you. Would you make me a yes man? I pray that for us as a people. Would you come and do that among us? We love you this morning. We're desperate that you would make us a yes people, a yes congregation. Cultivate the yesness in us. We love you. Do this thing in us. For it's in your name we pray.